if you talk to any developer, any software engineer right now on the front lines, they will tell you the same thing. Okay. They're pushing more code to production than they ever have before. They're doing it way faster than they ever have before, but they're all hitting the same side effects. They're pushing so much code, they can't test it. They can't validate it. They don't know if their code is going to ruin their app, make their customers mad, make them bounce, switch to a competitor. So this is a real problem in the world of software engineering. TestSprite is a startup that's looking to solve that problem. And from what I can tell, they're doing it very well. However, they may not be communicating that to their audience effectively, and that's what I'm going to try to help with. My name is Xander. I do full funnel audits and conversion strategy for SaaS companies, dev tools, fintech. So today we're going to be taking a quick look at the TestSprite homepage, a couple elements of their funnel, and I'm going to see if I can help them make this even better. So let's start with the homepage here. Like I said, TestSprite is solving a real problem, but I don't think they're hitting the right pain points off the bat when you first land on their homepage. Let's take a look at this first headline quote. 10x your AI native dev speed with our autonomous AI testing agent handling verification. It's a little wordy. It could be tightened up, but the main issue I see here is that they're pushing this speed angle. All right. From what I've heard, from what I've seen, that is not the main problem that devs are facing. They know that they can roll out their code faster than they ever have before. The real problem they're facing is the app crashing, customers getting mad, some horrific bug that ruins everything. Okay, these are the real pain points that TestSprite should be hitting on. So that's the first sort of messaging conflict I see here, is that devs already have the speed, they already have the volume. Really what they're looking for is a safety layer, an assurance layer, a backboard, a backstop, something that they can rely on as they're pushing out of this code, all this code at volume, at speed. TestSprite can position itself better to be that safety net that devs can rely on. Now let's scroll down below the fold a bit. I do like this sort of trust layer, proof layer scrolling bar that shows some big names, but it doesn't tell me much about how they're using the tool. They're just sort of flashing the big names out there. I don't know how much that helps. Built for your AI native development stack, simple to connect. Okay, that's important, but maybe it shouldn't belong this far up on the page. It seems more secondary, tertiary to me. So here's where it gets interesting. The next way that they sort of show more proof and try to build trust is by quoting these sort of AI ML all-stars. Okay, these guys are the Hall of Famers. This is like having, Kobe, Jordan, and LeBron, promoting your product. But they aren't necessarily, these guys aren't really promoting TestSprite here. They're just more giving their thoughts and quotes on the situation at large, which is something I've already articulated. AI coding systems are fast, but they're unreliable. You need certain tools to get more out of them. You need to be more concerned about quality. So I think they do a decent job here, but it seems like a little bit like they're piggybacking off these guys who don't use TestSprite. They don't know about TestSprite. Maybe it's a little bit name droppy, but I don't think it's that bad. We're scrolling down a bit more. They are showing the tool itself, the workflow itself, how devs will be using this. I like that a lot. A lot of SaaS companies don't even show their products. So credit where it's due here. A little bit more information about the features, access, guardrails. These are all good keywords. But it takes us, we're almost halfway down the homepage here before we see any sort of data to back this up, any stats, any hard numbers. And the first thing we see here is this little box that says 121% boost accuracy. It's not that strong to me. It seems like an afterthought. These should be up front and center. If you do have this sort of data, this is one of the first things that people need to know about. So TestSprite needs to dig into their customer use cases and testimonials to say, look, we were at 42% features delivered, and then we used TestSprite's tools benefits A, B, and C. We ramped it all the way up to 93% in this time frame. In 2 weeks, we went from 42% to 93% using these exact tools, these methods. So the proof needs to be explicit. They need to point to exact scenarios that are relatable to their audience, to real developers. Hey, I use those tools too. This looks a lot like my team. These are the exact tools I'm using. These are the kind of products I'm building. So that's how proof works for these types of tools, is specificity and being able to back up these claims with real world scenarios. Now, I understand if TestSprite doesn't necessarily have all of these use cases stacked up yet, they're still relatively new, but they do have this discover project section, which seems to be real projects that people are making with TestSprite, sort of these, Claude coded, Vibe coded apps that are active and they're on GitHub and they seem to be working. So This is the pool that they need to draw from to get some of those hard stats and build their case a little bit more upfront, higher up on the page, then repurpose and distribute those mini case studies, those testimonial cards, whatever they are. Find a format, something that's repeatable so that it's more relatable to devs that actually might want to use this tool. That to me is much more effective than a quote from Andre Karpathy about something that we already sort of know. The idea is validated. We now need real proof to back it up, and why teams, specifically why engineers should pick TestSprite over whatever other tools are out there. So now we're getting down to the bottom of the homepage. They're showing off how many community members they have, how many teams they've onboarded. There's got to be something valuable in there that they can push out into their testimonials, onto their socials, real use cases that show, look, this made our code better, faster, safer, got rid of problem A, B, and C. I don't have to worry about my app crashing in the middle of the night. I don't need to worry about whatever it is that devs are dealing with. That's how they're going to build their case. So there are a few nice quotes down here. I want to see hard statistics. I want to see percentage increases, time saves. We caught this specific bug. We solved this specific issue, and really draw out sort of these pain point scenarios, these nightmare disaster scenarios where what could happen if you don't have something like TestSprite in place. When I explore this homepage and some of their other materials, they don't articulate that pain strong enough. Now we're checking out some of their social presence. They're on X. They have about 2,000 followers. I do see this trend a lot with modern startups, is that they really push the features hard, the updates, the news, number one on Product Hunt. That's cool. But they tend to really focus on features because a lot of them are engineers. The founders are engineers. They're very feature focused and they're speaking to one another. But when it comes to marketing, they need to shift gears a little bit, talk more about the benefits, the real world scenarios, all the hard data, if they can find it, the customer testimonials, all the stuff that I've been talking about. They're showing their team working hard, great offices. They're at an event. It's all this stuff that you sort of expect from a startup. Maybe they don't want to be too promotional on LinkedIn. I can understand that. But for something like X, for something like Instagram, YouTube, they need to be hitting these sort of classic marketing tactics and principles that are going to build trust, make this seem like a more urgent problem, run the risk benefit scenario of having TestSprite versus not having it, going, matching up comparing their product to other testing tools that they're going head to head with. So that's where their opportunity is going to be. So I'll show you just a couple examples of rewrites I did for whether it's their homepage, for social posts, for blogs, whatever it is. This is the kind of language they need to be thinking about as they move forward. So your team shipped 500 lines of cloud generated. I think that's on the low end. Shipped 500 lines of cloud generated code today. How much of it did you actually test? That's a real question. That sparks conversation. It makes people feel uncomfortable. That's good. Now they want to look at TestSprite more. Another one. AI code generation is 10x faster. Might be even faster than that. If your testing doesn't scale, you're building a ticking time bomb. And then paint those pictures, paint those disaster scenarios. I know a lot of dev teams, they really don't like to think about that. They have those horror stories of their own. So that's where the competitive advantage lies, because TestSprite alleviates that pain. Another one, untested AI code in production is the new technical debt. Here's how we prevent it. That's how they position TestSprite as a solution to a real problem that everybody's feeling right now. And then the last one here, your developers are using Claude and Copilot. Maybe this is for a team lead or a tech lead, CTO. Your testing process wasn't built for the speed. That's a problem. So that's hitting on maybe the broader strokes of running a technical team, maybe being the head engineer. And this is something that you can do to kill a pain point that your whole team is experiencing and sort of be the spearhead for that movement. So to wrap it up here, TestSprite is doing a great job. The product looks amazing. I think that they have some big opportunities to tighten up their messaging, make things a little more clear, to make their funnel a little bit more approachable, make that impact off the bat a little bit stronger using the pain points that I discussed, using the different scenarios, customer testimonials, stacking the proof in different ways, using the hard data. This is the kind of stuff that I do in my audits all the time with clients. So if you are interested in following me here on X, on IG, wherever, happy to have you. See you soon.